You know, I recall a hack and slash game that I played with an intriguing weapon mechanic. A mechanic that made weapon breaking sick. And today, I want to talk about that game, Ultra Age. I found out about Ultra Age years ago, before its first release on the Nintendo Switch from the trailer. When the game finally came out on the Switch, and then later the PC, I bought both versions on day one. Needless to say, I like Ultra Age. At the start of my second playthrough, I was reintroduced to Age and Helvis, his companion. They reminded me how much I enjoyed the interactions between the two.
You with the arms and legs, hurry on up.
Damn that robot.
And while the game looked okay, I was more focused on getting to the combat. I was a bit rusty admittedly, but I was happy enough to get back to fighting. I was doing basic combos well, and getting hit every so often, even dying because I put it on hard mode. My enjoyment of the game only elevated when I got to re-experience Ultra Age's weapon durability system, because shattering a blade on a monster's skull never gets old. And honestly, this would keep up for the rest of the game, and carried over to the free DLC as well. Because I enjoyed the gameplay a lot, I will talk about that first. The other elements to Ultra Age can wait. In Ultra Age, you have light and heavy attacks. Ending a string of light attacks with a heavy attack will net you a combo. All combo routes have different uses. There's also a weapon switch attack, which differs per weapon and if you're airborne or not. There's also a wire that Age can use that pulls lighter enemies to him, or you can pull yourself to the enemy instead. And of course, when the weapon durability is low, you can perform a break blade attack. This is a special attack that functions as a combo finisher, and while performing, you'll have invincibility frames. When a break blade attack is done, you'll consume one blade. You can restock on blades from crystals that are all over the map or from monsters as a drop. For defense, you only have a dodge that you can time perfectly to perform a perfect dodge. The parry option is locked behind the claymore as a switch attack. The player also has access to Helvis. Helvis can use time shift, critical rage, healing pocket, and item pull. You will use time shift to reset crystals and enemies in an area if you want to fight them again. Critical rage is a buff that increases your critical chance for a short time. And this might come as a big shock to you, but healing pocket heals you, and item pull pulls items towards you within a radius. Time shift and healing pocket requires energy to activate, which can be obtained by crystals and defeating enemies. Critical rage only increases through defeating enemies. When you die, you will lose a bit of your currency and your rage gauge resets. There are stats that you can equip called installation modules. The type of modules that you can find are damage, HP, armor, crit chance, crit damage, and a master module that will increase all of those. That said, Ultra Age's combat feels great. From beginning to end, I was able to perform satisfying combos that I wanted to do. Out of the 6 weapons, I enjoyed using the lightning blade and katana the most. This is mostly because I love crowd control that the lightning blade could provide, especially when upgrading it, and the katana I enjoyed for the movement. I will give an honorable mention to the steel blade because it goes from a weak weapon to the one that uses the break blade system the most. The movement is pretty basic, but you can use the wire to pull yourself to an enemy, which gives you iframes, so it acts as an extra dodge. It's an option I didn't use too much, however, it's still an option for you to consider. The game is also fundamentally sound, as I didn't come across any bugs that ruined my playthrough, and in fact, I don't think I came across any bugs at all. Ultra Age even has a way to mix up the gameplay just a little bit with laboratories. These are sections in the game that have a roguelike element to them. Every time you enter, the enemies, the room layout, and the crystals you find are randomized. Of course, the goal is to reach the end, but there are optional rooms that you might find, which means you can get more of the currency, or you might find more power gears which help upgrade Age. And I think these sections are a good change of pace. Not to mention, they made a whole mode for this structure in free DLC called the Rebirth Project. The mode has 30 floors and does have a progression system to it, making it more of a roguelite. Needless to say, I did enjoy it enough to sink more hours into the game. To find what I didn't quite care for in this game, we have to get a little bit more specific. Let's talk about the weapon usage. Remember when I said the katana was my favorite weapon to use? Well, the katana and claymore would be unusable on robots and biological creatures respectively. If you use those swords on the correct enemies, you will do bonus damage. The katana has the added bonus of executing if you deplete the yellow meter. Using the two weapons on the wrong enemy will mean less damage. This is a shame because I enjoy using the katana for its moveset. One might say it's a mechanic that gets you to use the other blades, and I would agree, but then why aren't the other weapons tied to that modifier? Let's take a look at the lightning sword and the gun blade. The lightning sword stuns robots, and the gun blade makes biological creatures bleed. Both have effects that work on both types of monsters, but they aren't gatekept by damage. You can still use them on any monster if you choose to, but you won't get the effect. The lightning blade also has great AoE damage, and the gun blade can be used at range, so they still hold value. The katana and claymore are only good for iframes when you do their break blade attack. Yet the damage that they deal is trash. Removing the damage modifiers for those two blades would make the game less restrictive. The claymore could be used for the parry on everybody, and the damage will not be lacking. And the funny thing is, in the Rebirth Project DLC, it does that very thing, so I know I prefer the negative damage modifiers not being there. The bonus damage was still there, but for me that wasn't required. Another thing I wanted to talk about is the difficulty balancing for Ultra Age. Before the game starts, you have a choice between easy, normal, and hard. When I first played Ultra Age, I played on normal mode. However, when I played on the PC, I did hard mode. There's an option to adjust the difficulty during the playthrough, but I didn't really touch it. From what I could tell, the only difference between the three modes is how much damage the enemies deal to you. Everyone's HP is the same, and I knew this because if I was on point with executing combos for good damage, the bosses would die really quickly, excluding the final two bosses. This could be due to me wanting to get better at the game, so I would fight random monsters over and over, so I would end up with mostly upgraded skills. I finished maxing out all my blades at the desert before the main boss, and when I fought it, well, it couldn't survive. I guess I would want to have a little bit more HP or defense on those bosses. Again, just not the last two, and I won't show them, but just know they put up more of a fight when I maxed out my character. And speaking of characters, let me move on to the story. The story of Ultra Age starts off with the player being introduced to Age and Helvis. Age is on this planet because he needs to collect a relic. Doing so will give him a reward of immortality.
Eternal life? I wonder what eternal life feels like.
You will have to ask when the mission is complete.
And he needs to do this mission because he will die within a week. Now, I like the dialogue between Age and Helvis.
You kind of look like him, but your personality is just meh.
Really? Deucalion must be handsome too.
Introducing the player to the stakes in the tutorial area was done well too. Being shown Medea at the end of the tutorial works as well, but I kinda wish she fought me herself, as opposed to using the robots. The story only falls off for me a bit after the halfway point. Without trying to spoil anything, the leader of the group Age is working for, Deucalion, should have been involved in some way. Age knows that Medea is supposed to be an ally, so after that altercation, he should have contacted Deucalion. Then as the plot develops, Deucalion should be involved. Because as the game is now, Age tries to piece things together with Helvis.
Why are they so obsessed with this relic anyway?
I'm not very good at using the relic yet. It has the power to control time, just like we saw earlier. If we use it properly, we might be able to turn back time for the entire world.
Incredible. Was Medea after this machine with that knowledge in mind? To Callion too?
And I think it's nice that the character has agency to think for themselves, but adding Decalion with his reactions to the events would do a better job of getting the player to question what's going on behind the scenes. I don't think there would have to be too much dialogue either. After figuring out what the story was, maybe a bit late after completing the game, I came to that conclusion. With that said, to me, Ultra H had a missed opportunity with the story because of that. But as it is right now, I would say that the story is just okay. Now moving on to the presentation of Ultra Age, I wouldn't say it doesn't look bad, but visually it doesn't quite resonate with me. But I also feel like the game doesn't have a strong visual art style. Let me bring up two other action games as an example, Solstice and Assault Spy. Solstice has a dark fantasy setting that primarily uses dark colors, but with how they show the world with its set camera angles and their use of colors and lighting makes the visuals that much more striking. Assault Spy has a style that uses monochrome for most of the world and vibrant colors to make the characters pop from the background. I don't quite get that strong feeling of style from Ultra Age. The game is in a sci-fi setting that is set in the far future. The planet that they're on is abandoned and is succumbing to nature, and there's a lot of crystals being used. The developers could have mixed the crystal technology a lot more with that specific planet to give it a unique look. When we get to the sound design of Ultra Age, it's fine, but I don't feel too strongly about this either. The music is passable, but nothing stands out besides the credits theme and the main menu theme when you beat the game. But of course, this boils down to my personal taste. But I'm not gonna say Ultra Age is all bland. The animations for the break blade attacks look cool, and definitely worthy of calling it a combo finisher. I also appreciate how the developers animated Age getting the final blow on the boss when you complete the fight. I would say Ultra Age's presentation is passable as a whole, but of course they could have done just a little bit more to give it a distinct look. All in all, even though I was harsh on Ultra Age in terms of the presentation, I still completely recommend this game for people to play. I love Ultra Age and its DLC. After completing the story to completion twice, I just saw more ways that the game could improve. I love the combat of Ultra Age. The main mechanic revolving around the weapon durability is awesome, and it adds more depth to structuring combos. I want other people to experience the same thing I did, and then play the DLC because it's fun and free. With all that in mind, Ultra Age is normally $24.99. But of course, sales happen from time to time. So if you are interested, ultimately the choice is yours. But that's it from me. I will see you in the next one.